Okay guys, so starting our strings lesson 1. So in this strings lesson we are going to learn what are strings, examples of some strings, then we learn how to create the strings, indexing in strings, string slicing, adding strings and multiplying strings with a number. So let's get started. What are strings? And you can feel free to ask your questions in the comment section. If you don't understand anything, I'll be there to help you and solve your queries. So let's get started. What are strings? Strings are a group of characters. What are characters? That is, write a string. So let's say a variable is name and I'm assigning the string data science. So a string is enclosed between these two quotation marks. These are single quotation marks. You can also create a string with double quotation marks. Okay, name, let's say profession. This is another variable. I'm creating this string with double quotation marks. Software developer. So you can create strings with single quotation marks, strings with double quotation marks. So this is a basic example of a string. Now let's understand creating strings. So use single quotation marks or double quotation marks to create a string. Okay, so let's create the string. Let's call it live Python classes. So this is a string. Anything enclosed between these two will be a string. Simple concept. Class by data science. So simple creation of a string. Now indexing in a string. So strings are indexed. That means every character is mapped to a number which starts from 0. So the index of P here is 0, index of Y is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on and so forth. First of all, let's create a string and then find the index of various characters in that string. So each individual letter is called a character in that string. So let's create a string name equals to data science. Now I need to find the index of various characters. So if you do name of 0, that is the 0th index in this name string. So let's print that. It means T. So T is at 0th index. Now if I want to fetch the first index, so it says H. H is at index 1. Now if I want to fetch index number 5, I can do that. So using these brackets, the square brackets, and providing the index, you can fetch the value at that index S. And now if I enter something like which 100, so there are, you can see there are 100 characters are not in this string, and still you try to fetch the 100th index, you will get an error. So it says index error because this index 100 is not in this list. It only has 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 indexes. If you try to access anything beyond that, you will get an error, index error. So keep in mind, always keep the index in range. Characters at index can be fetched by string and the index. In this syntax, you can fetch characters at that index. Now, what if I want to get the indexing of all the characters? So I can just write a loop over a string for I. So looping over a string, right? Now for I, that is character in name, and we need index also, so we will use the enumerate function. So I becomes the index and ch becomes the character. So I want to print the index and the character, print I comma ch. So it will print 0t, 1h, 2a, 3t, 4a. So index and the character at that index. So this is a simple syntax using which you can fetch the index and the character at that index. Any doubts so far you can ask in the comment section. Okay, let's move on. So we have learned examples of a string, how we can create a string, indexing in a string, and looping over a string. Okay, now string slicing. So there is something called slicing in Python. So let's define a string for that. Let's say PC. Computer is known as PC. So this is a string. Now, by slicing we mean getting some portion of it. So if I want to get this portion, I can achieve that using slicing. If I want to get this portion, I can achieve that using slicing. So getting a part of the string is called string slicing. How do we do that? The syntax for string slicing. So let's first define. Getting part of a string is called slicing. Syntax of slicing. So this is the string that we have defined, PC equals to computer is known as PC. Now if I want to get the part of it, so I need to know the index from where to where. So before this is the starting index, start and end. A string variable. So given a string variable, you can slice that string using this syntax: square brackets, start index, and the end index. Okay, let's try this example on our string variable PC. So I want to fetch from index 0 to index, let's say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you might have noticed start is 0, end is 8, right? So just like the range function, the last index is not considered. So it will only consider index till 7. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's why R is printed and this space is not printed, because the end index is excluded. The last index is excluded, but the start index is included. Okay, I hope that is clear. This is a simple syntax of string slicing. Now let's add a twist to it. Slicing with step size. So if you have learned the range function, there is a start, end, and the step size. Similarly, you can slice using step size. So let's provide a step size, PC, the string variable, and then the start index, end index, and the step size. We can also provide the step size. So let's try to provide the step size. So this is a syntax. And let's provide the step size PC. I want to go from 0 till the index 12, 13, and then my step size should be 2. So you can see it has started skipping. So if you see O should have come, but we have a step size of 2. That's why M has come. And then P should have come, but the step size of 2, U has come. So it is skipping alternately because you have provided a step size of 2. By default, if you don't provide a step size, the step size default is 1. Okay. So this is how you can add a step size by slicing. Now, there is something called reverse slicing. Reverse slicing. So any doubts in slicing? You can ask in the comment section. Okay. So reverse slicing. So you might have noticed when we are slicing in this way, we are always going from the beginning to the end. We are going from left to right. That is the common flow in slicing. In reverse slicing, we can go from right end to the left end. We can go from here to here. That is called reverse slicing. How do we do reverse slicing? By providing a negative step size. So let's say if I want to do a reverse slicing, right? So you have to be aware of the reverse indexing. So the forward indexing starts from 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on. The reverse indexing starts from -1. So -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. Okay. So reverse slicing. Use negative index for reverse slicing, right? And also the negative step size, because the default flow is from left to right. So if you want to reverse the flow, you need a negative step size also. So let's do that. For this string PC, I want to go from index -1 to index -10 and with a reverse step size of -1. So you can see that PC has become CP space, SA must have become AS, must have become SA and so on. So you are reversing the whole string with a step size of 1 till the index -10. So I think this is the -10th index. Okay. So that's how you can use reverse slicing to slice the index. And slicing can be forward as well as reverse. Keep in mind, by default the flow of slicing is from left to right. But if you want reverse slicing, provide a negative step size and also the appropriate start and end index in the reverse manner. Any doubts in the slicing, you can ask in the comment section. Okay, let's move on, guys. So far we have learned what are strings, how to create a string, indexing in strings, looping over a string slicing with step size, and string slicing in a reverse manner. Now, so far if you have learned something, if you think that you have learned something, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Now let's add strings. How do we add strings? So let's define two strings. Name is a string 1, data science, and second is age. Let's call age again a string. It can be a number also, but I'm writing a string 3 years. Now if we want to add two strings, which is also known as concatenation, it's nothing but a high sophisticated word for adding basically. So if you want to add strings, how do we add? So generally we have learned from our childhood, we add through the plus operator. So let's try that. Name plus age. Name, age is not defined, so you have to define it first. Name plus age, so it says data science plus 3 years. So it has joined both of them. If you add them, it has joined both of them. So similar fashion, you can add any number of strings. So here we see name and age, but it does not look good because 3 has been stuck to data science. So I need a space here. So let's add a space string. So this is a space string. So we have added a space string also, right? So this is a string concatenation. This is a string addition. You can add many more strings. You can add plus success, and let's add a string space in the string itself, right, is here. So if you print this, data science 3 here, success is here. So you are adding name string, then empty string with a space, then age string, then success string with a space inbuilt, and then the final string is here. So you can keep on adding strings. There is no restriction to that. You can keep adding strings. Okay, but keep in mind, you can keep adding strings only. You can't add a string and an integer. So name plus 3, type error. You can only concatenate a string, not int to a string. Okay, so these error messages are very important to debug your code, to understand what is going wrong, right? So if I read this, it can say can only concatenate a string, not integer. So that means somewhere in the code I am adding a string and a number that is incorrect. So I can add, what if I want to add a number? So what can I do? I can just convert that number to a string using the string function. Using this function, you can convert anything into a string. So now it will work, because now we have converted this to a string. String can be added to a string. That's why it is being added. I hope this is clear to you. This is simple concept, but most of the mistakes, beginner mistakes, happen because of this reason. People try to add a number and a string. That is wrong. Multiplying a string with a number. So you have seen that you cannot add a string and a number, right? We just saw if you add a string and a number, it raises type error. It gives you type error because the type is incompatible, right? But if you try to multiply a string with a number, what will happen? Can someone tell me in the comment section what will happen if I try to multiply a string with a number? Don't be shy. The purpose of these classes is to make you great at coding so that you can help others also become great at coding and you can have a great career. So try to answer the problem in the comment section. We all are learning here. Nothing to be afraid of, nothing to be shy of. What will happen if I multiply a string to a number? Okay, so magic happens. So if you multiply a string with a number, it is totally possible in Python. And you can see the output. It actually tries to create copies of that string and add them to the same string. Right? So data science is the name, and I have multiplied it by 3. So it has created 3 copies of data science. So this is actually magic in Python. You cannot add a string and a number, but you can multiply a string and a number. That is possible. Multiplication of a string with a number is possible, and that basically creates multiple instances, multiple copies of the content of that string. Now if I want to multiply this with 10, it will create 10 copies. You can see it has created 10 copies. So you can use this to create a pattern. So let's say pat equals to star 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 bar star 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 bar. So if I try to multiply this string, now we are going to see a pattern, right? So pat multiplied by 10. So you can see it has returned a pattern. Let's reduce the size. That pat multiplied by 5. So you can see it has repeated itself and you got a pattern. So you can multiply a string with a number, but you cannot add a string with a number. Keep that in mind. This is important. So today we have learned a lot. This example of a string, creating a string, indexing, looping over a string slicing, syntax of slicing, slicing with step size, reversing a string, addition of strings, a string and a number, multiplication of a string and a number.